Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. This is a Spawn Daily episode. I know I missed 3 days. I'm really sorry. When I was in WonderCon this last weekend, was driving my wife's hybrid because, better gas, mileage, what have you. She was driving my car. My car is much older. Not saying it's her fault whatsoever, but the engine threw a rod. The engine blew up. So, been without a car for the last 3 days. I've been out test driving and what have you. So, it's had to be done. Didn't have time to record. Really apologize, everybody. But I got a new rig, and hopefully everything's all set. So going forward, I probably will release some extra episodes, maybe like one in the morning and one in the afternoon, sometime in the next 3 or 4 days, so that we get caught up because we're just those few episodes behind. This one should have come out on Monday. It's coming out on Thursday. So yeah, probably 2 episodes on Friday, 2 episodes on Saturday, 2 episodes on Sunday, and then we should be all caught up. So a reminder of what we're doing. If you stumbled across it, you're like, what the heck's going on? What are you doing? So I have never read all of Spawn. For Spawn's 30th anniversary back in 2022, started a daily Spawn podcast to try to read all the Spawn and original series, and then quickly realized that it would be much better if I read all the tie-ins and crossovers and miniseries as well. So went backfilled. I think it was after issue 50 we switched. Went backfilled and started reading everything. And this is in the hopes of, first of all, reading Spawn because I've never read it. And when McFarlane at that time launched his new series, Scorched and King Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn and what have you, I picked up the first issues. I read them. But there was so much context I was missing, references to events and people and what have you that I wasn't familiar with because I'd never read it. So, had a couple people on the journey with me. It was awesome to have them along for the ride. But, the first guy dropped out, recruited the second guy, he dropped out. And then I tried to do a few on my own. It just didn't have the same feel. Um, and so it kind of fell by the wayside. But I really still want to read all of Spawn at some point. So I've rededicated myself this year to reading it. I tried to recruit some people. Nobody really wants to make a commitment of coming on and recording daily, which I totally get. I totally understand. People are busy. Life happens, like I was just talking about with my car. So I guess I'm going to be riding solo on these. Hopefully, I can bring some perspective. And if you've never read Spawn, if you're following along, you're going to have your own opinions, which is great. Please reach out, comment in the comment section on the YouTube video. I interact with people there, almost always respond. Well, I always respond at least with a thumbs up. But typically, depending on what your comment is, I'm going to engage. We'll start a little bit of a conversation. So that being said, if you are watching us on YouTube, really appreciate a subscription. I am trying to finally monetize the YouTube channel. Got to get up to 500 followers for that, 500 subscribers. Almost there, but not quite. So if you guys could all subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It really would help me out. Let your friends know if you have any comic friends who want to come along for the ride for Spawn Daily as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the book for today. We're up to Spawn 73. It's got this amazing Greg Capullo cover, Spawn fighting this giant monster. You might be going, what, who the heck is that? Is that a new character? What's going on? Yes, it's very much a new character. And he has the amazing name of the Heap. And in fact, when we look at the first page here, we see that it's the issue's titled The Heap. Stories by McFarlane and Brian Holguin, pencils by Greg Capullo, inks by Danny Miki, letters by Tom Orzechowski. I guess I should say copy editing and letters by Orzechowski, because that's how he's credited in the credits there, as you can see. And one of the other things that I'll mention is inside the front cover right now, we do have sort of this movie image of Spawn. Remember, it's just been a few months since the movie hit theaters at this time when this issue was coming out. So it kicks off with Sam and Twitch. They're at their building where their detective agency is, and they're talking in kind of ominous tones. This was bound to happen. We'll survive it. It's not the end of the world. And what they're talking about, sort of tongue-in-cheek, McFarlane and Holguin bringing a little humor here, is the elevator being out. And you can see Obviously, Sam, being a little on the heavier side, is is not too happy uh, about having to go up the stairs. So once they finally reach their office, the lights won't turn on. They're wondering what's going on. Has their power been turned out? Did they forget to pay their bill? What have you? But no, actually, it's Cogliostro. Cogliostro, in his mysterious ways, has used his powers to turn off the light. He is telling them that, the time has come for them to have a larger conversation, and they need to assist Spawn. He says we must speak about the Hell Spawn. Things are about to become much more complicated. You need to be his eyes and his hands in the human world, which is a little interesting because Spawn, he exists in the human world as well. So what exactly, are we talking about here? Why did these two guys, who again are very suspicious of Spawn, obviously they dragged his dead body, and they know he weighs more than a typical human, what have you. And they're sort of suspicious by nature because they are former NYPD officers. So they kind of push back a little bit on Cogliostro, saying, why should we help you? Why should we help him? What's with the Spooky Act? We need a lot more information before we just, go along with what you say. And Cog says, well, I think it's time you learned a little bit more about who the way he puts it is your new master. You need to know more about who Spawn is. You're thinking of him as this, horrible being, this evil person. But he's like, I've left a present for you. It should shed some light on the situation. And at that moment, the lights turn on. Or actually, sorry, at that moment, Sam pulls out a flashlight and shines it on him. He disappears. There's a file on the desk, and Sam is saying, that guy's really getting on my nerves, and Twitch agrees. So, what's in the file? What are they going to learn? Does it say that that Spawn was Al Simmons, what have you? We're gonna have to wait till next issue to find that out. So, in the meantime, we know that Bobby was attacked and injured in issue 70. So back in Rat City, the place where Bobby likes to rest, Bootsy's kind of comforting him, and in a way, he's saying goodbye. He doesn't want to spill his secret totally. We know as readers at this point that Bootsy is an angel. He's on the side of heaven when it comes to the heaven and hell war. And by saving Bobby, he's broken the rules. And so he's saying, yeah, I might have to be gone for good. And Bobby's like, well, what are you talking about? And Bootsy's like, yeah, I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I might be in a lot of trouble. And he doesn't have any idea who Bootsy truly is. He doesn't have any idea that Bootsy is ba basically an angel, I guess, or at least an agent of heaven, we'll say. And Cogliostro at that moment shows up again, being this mysterious guy, pops in and out. And he says, yeah, he meddled in the affair of mortals. Now he's fearing retribution. Celestial retribution is what he says. And Boots is surprised to see Cogliostro there, saying, what's going on? You're hardly one to speak about the machinations of heaven. And Cog's response is interesting. He says, there's no time for our petty squabbling right now. There's no time to bicker between the forces of heaven and forces of hell. Actually, the survival of both heaven and hell depends on us working together right now. And Bobby's hearing all this, and he's like, hey, why don't you guys pass me some of whatever you're drinking? Because it sounds awfully good. And I guess when Bootsy is not distracted by his worry about some sort of retribution or getting in trouble for helping out Bobby, he notices there's something going on as well, right? Like Cog says, don't you feel it too, Bootsy? Don't act surprised. And when Bootsy concentrates on it, as you can see kind of in the bottom right panel there, we're told there's a storm gathering. There's a third force which lies between heaven and hell that doesn't care anything about the war between those two factions. So this is a third force, a third faction, and according to Cog, it could prove the undoing of Hellspawn, of Spawn. This could kill him, And we know what happens if Spawn is killed, right? Like that triggers the war on Earth between heaven and hell. It triggers the forces of Malbolgia attacking Earth. The final battle will happen. Lots of people will die. And regardless of whatever his orders are, Bootsy doesn't want that. We've obviously seen that he's got a little more invested, maybe from living amongst mortals for so long, his friends in Rat City and what have you. So he's willing to work with Cog on whatever this is that's going on. So on the next page, we transition to seeing some more people, a different part of Rat City. It's Eddie Beckett. We saw him a little while back. He was the one that found the bag of necroplasm, the green slime that it sort of is a part of Al Simmons. And he's talking in a little bit of a different way than we've seen him talk before. Some people are saying, hey, can you get us some goods, whatever. He's like, yeah, sure, I can do it, whatever. Like, he's just brimming with confidence. And when he goes into the local convenience store, he's like, yeah, I'll take 3 bottles of Thunderbird and some beef jerky and some cigarettes and, my brand, what have you. And the store owner's kind of looking at him with this like incredulous look, going, what, I'll give you 1 pack of cigarettes because you're supposed to be providing me with information, but you got to earn the rest. And we're like, okay, hold on. What's going on? Would this homeless guy be getting cigarettes for free? Like how does he earn? Like what's going on here? And then just based on the kind of the context of the conversation, which I think this is very well done by Holguin and McFarlane, you kind of get an idea of what's going on here. And the guy says, you're supposed to trade for it, right? You're supposed to let me know when somebody has something of value, somebody leaves a car unlocked, something to this effect. So even though this is a convenience store, it's more of a front for, I'd say like small time crooks, if you will. And so the owner's like, yeah, come back, take your pack of cigarettes, get out of here. Come back when you have something that I can actually use, something of value for me. And we see Eddie Beckett leave, and the guy's son, the shop owner's son's like, hey, what's that bum doing? What was he doing in here? I hear he came across something valuable. He's holding out on us and what have you. And his father's like, what does he have? Like the Hope Diamond or something? And then the mother kind of sticks her head out and says, I don't know, but we've had other people tell us that Eddie's been bragging about how he lucked into something special, and we don't know what it is and whatever. So there's this sense from these small time crooks that Eddie is holding out on them, and he's got something that's worth a lot. And so the son says, okay, I'm gonna go check it out, make sure this guy understands that nobody messes with the Dominos. Obviously, it's this Italian family that runs this shop. So on the following page, we see that the son has caught up with Eddie, and he's kind of roughing him up, throwing him around, saying, what have you been doing? Why are you holding out on us? We heard you came across something valuable, and you know what the deal is. You keep your eyes open. Anything you find valuable comes to us. Again, if people are out of town for the weekend, or somebody leaves their car unlocked in the wrong place, or something like that, you're supposed to be coming to us. That's your job. You're not supposed to be keeping stuff for yourself. So whatever you found, you need to hand it over. And Eddie's trying to convince him, it's just talk. It's big talk. I didn't mean anything by it. He's like, I'll even show you. And so he gets the bag of necroplasm. When he shows it to this guy, obviously he's like, this is just a bag of snot. Like, what are you talking about, right? Because that's what it looks like. It's just this green glowing goo, if you will. And Eddie even says, it's something I found, and it makes me feel special, and it makes me, feel very confident. But obviously not doesn't seem to have value. Neither one of these guys really understands what it is, right? That it's part of Spawn, it's got supernatural properties, what have you. So this guy's just pissed. So again, he smacks Eddie around a little bit more, and he's like, is this some kind of joke? You're such a loser. And then he stabs him. We see at the bottom page there. He's got the bag in one hand, he stabs him with the knife in the other. and he says, who's laughing now? And he drops the bag and he runs off. So as Eddie lies there bleeding out, as he lies there dying, the necroplasm, senses that. And there's some dialogue here that's, kind of setting the mood. Hours pass, blah, blah, blah. Um, and we're reminded that this is necroplasm and that it's sort of attracted to violence, and it does somewhat contain the power of Spawn. So it infiltrates Eddie where he's been stabbed. It mixes with his body. We see some incredible art from Capullo here. His ribs sort of busting out of his chest. He's screaming and coughing, and um, in the exposition boxes, we're told about how the necroplasm is seeping into his wound and permeating his organs and eating the marrow from his bones. Like pretty horrific transformation when you think about it. And I mean, he could barely speak. That last image there really says it all. Like his flesh is starting to melt away. His eyes are bulging out. You see his tongue there, what have you. Um, and as the necroplasm continues its transformation of Eddie, it also reaches out to the alley, the surrounding alley and detritus and garbage and everything else that's there. The refuse and waste of the city is what we're told. And it's pulling it all in, all the contagion and decay, and it strips away the flesh and bone from Eddie, and it replaces it with all of this filth and broken glass, and he just becomes this giant heap of garbage, if you will. And we see him kind of in his full glory on the next page. And again, all credit to Greg Capullo for this incredible image. I mean, it certainly doesn't look human at all, but the glowing eyes, the green mouth, kind of the steam that's rising off of him really is a product of the city itself, and all the garbage and alleyways of New York City. So just again, an absolutely fantastic image. The first time we see the Heap in all his glory, if you will, on the page. Obviously, we saw him on the cover. He looks even bigger here. He looks even more monstrous, and yeah, like a heap, right? Like just a giant pile of garbage, a giant pile of garbage. So on the next page, we get one of the pages with the three talking heads from various networks. Again, they're named differently now. It doesn't actually say CNN, doesn't actually say ETV, what have you. I think, at this point, McFarlane had kind of learned his lesson, didn't want to get sued or whatever. But this page allows for context to tell us about what's going on in the city itself. CNN reporter is talking about how the borough of Manhattan, temperatures have been rising. There's some sort of heat wave. And according to the National Weather Service, it feels like geothermic activity, except that can't actually be a thing because of the way the bedrock below Manhattan is. It wouldn't allow for, lava or magma or whatever to be creeping up somewhere, bubbling out somewhere and causing all this heat. Like something like you'd have in Hawaii near the volcanoes. That's not possible because of the bedrock. There's no, crack that would lead down to the magma in New York City. Plus, somebody would see it in Manhattan. Somebody would notice that. And so they're just not sure, what's going on. Meanwhile, the E-Guide kind of provides some more context to that. It's talking about this film crew that was filming in the subway, and because of the heat, actors were passing out, whatever, they had to stop filming. And then we got the guy in the bottom who's talking about, hey, this is hell on earth, and it's probably nuclear waste or whatever, again, spreading his conspiracy theories as he always does. And then on the following page, we have a skyline shot. It's talking about how, even the most sane guy can possibly be driven to murder, or at least think about it under this heat. Those that can flee the city do. Those that can't try to endure. But as another day slips away and night starts to fall, the forecast for tomorrow is more of the same, with nobody really understanding where all this heat is coming from. So back in Rat City, Spawn is asking Bobby if he's seen Bootsy, and he's like, "What, Bootsy? What do you want him for?" And Spawn's like, Something doesn't feel right in the alleys. There's angels or vampires we've had here, and now there's something else. I can feel it, like it's a part of me." And I think Bootsy might know the answers, right? Like Spawn knows Bootsy's an agent of heaven at this point. And Bobby's like, What are you guys on? Like, and why haven't you been sharing it with me? I know Bootsy's a night sky or whatever. Don't get me wrong, but he's not all that." And Spawn uh, says to Bobby, "There's more to Bootsy than might appear. So have you seen him or not?" And and Bobby says, "Yeah, he's with that old dude near the place that he likes to hang out, near the old bookbinders, what have you." Spawn says, "Ah, the dead zone, right? The place where his powers don't work." And Bobby's like, "Dead zone? What dead zone?" But Spawn's gone already. He's already taken off. He wants to find out what's going on, and he's hoping that Bootsy might have the answers. So he heads over there, and he careful not to just walk into the dead zone, but he feels like he's being watched. There's the sound of breathing, something that's breathing in and out very slowly. And I really love this page, the way Capullo does it. Very sharp angles on the cape and what have you. Very foreboding. The first shot we see on the left there, far away, Spawn dropping down vertically, then landing, and we zoom in, and he starts walking, and we zoom in on his feet walking. Then as he feels like he's being watched, his eyes are narrowing, and we zoom really close in on his face that's in shadow. So it really kind of builds tension across this page, brilliantly done. And then on the following page, we see that the heap attacks. Or I guess I should say the heap is stalking him, if you will, because you see in the first panel, he's heading toward Spawn. You can see Spawn's cape on the edge of the panel there as Spawn continues down the alley looking for Bootsy and Cogliostro. And then, yes, on the final page, we get a close-up of the heap's face, or the final panel there on that page. We get a close-up of the heap's face, and yeah, then he attacks. And meanwhile, Cogliostro and Bootsy haven't been able to find any answers about what's going on or what have you, but Bootsy rather can sense something's about to happen. It's like, "Thank God you're here. I can feel the danger's imminent. There's something coming for Spawn. We have to help him." And Cog's like, "Wait, help him? I thought heaven wanted him dead." Which, again, it's complicated because once he dies, he's the Hellspawn whose demise supposedly is going to trigger the final battle, what have you. But it goes back to what Cog was saying before about setting aside their petty squabbles. And Bootsy reminds me of that. He's like, "Don't play games. It's too important. You know what's at stake." And Cog says, "Very well, let's go find him. I just hope we're not too late." And then we get the final page of the issue where we see Spawn being engulfed by the heap there. You can see him sort of in the middle. The heap looks bigger than ever. I mean, Spawn's a pretty big guy, 6'2", 6'3", I'd say. And the heap just dwarfs him, right? Just absorbing him, it looks like. And we're told that he's struggling in this towering tower of rubbish and decades of abandoned garbage and what have you. And this is where we get the name of the creature for the first time. It's the last word of dialogue in the issue. It says, "All the carelessly discarded debris that has marred nature's verdant glory gathers itself into an unstoppable gargantuan heap." And there is one little clue about what power might be that third force, what might be behind this heap creature, behind all the heat that New York is feeling, when it says the discarded debris that has marred nature's verdant glory. So that gives us a little bit of a clue about what we're going to have next, nature striking back, as it were. So again, pretty fast-paced issue, a little bit of setup for what's coming next for Spawn in this current arc, and just again, an absolutely amazing creature design from Capullo. Let me go back to that page where we see the heap show up for the first time. It's one of my favorite Spawn images. I guess I should say my favorite images in a Spawn comic, because it's not actually an image of Spawn. It's the image of this creature and what have you. And I just love it. I mean, the Heap looks good on the cover as well. Don't get me wrong, but on this particular page from Capullo, where we see him for the first time, uh, I just think it's done brilliantly. It's just absolutely amazing. It's so fantastic. So, pretty fast-paced issue, like I said. A little bit of setup. We're getting introduced to a third faction that's somehow involved or wrapped up in the war between heaven and hell. So we'll see how that plays out over the next couple issues. Does have something to do with nature, as was hinted at, if you will, in this issue. So appreciate that. Also appreciate you guys all joining along for Spawn Daily. I'm having a blast doing it. Again, I do wish that I had somebody else along to have a different perspective, but maybe we'll get there at some point. But regardless, these will be coming out hopefully on a regular basis now that got all the things that were keeping me away from the studio taken care of. So again, appreciate everybody joining. Please like, subscribe, leave some comments. As I said, love to discuss what's going on in the book at any given time. You know, we've got some new stuff coming out from McFarlane this year. You can go back and listen to the interview that I did with Todd back in January. This first issue of Sam and Twitch just came out within the last couple of weeks. Read it, really enjoyed the story. It very much felt in the same sort of tone and vein of previous Sam and Twitch volumes. Excuse me. I thought the graphic style was interesting. A little more of a digital style, and it really comes across with kind of that slickness. I don't know if I necessarily like that. And the other thing was the lack of word balloons was an interesting choice. So may take an issue or two just for me to get familiar or used to the feel. But then at the same time, it does feel so different from these older books. I don't know, maybe I won't ever get used to the feel. We'll have to wait and see. But I am enjoying the story. I'm intrigued by what's going on. I really enjoyed that. And then Rat City is coming out this next Wednesday. Again, interviews available with the writer Erica Schultz this time from a few months ago. You can go listen to what's coming up in Rat City. I'm really, really excited. That might be the upcoming series that I'm most excited for out of all of the new Spawn stuff that's coming this year. That or the Gunslinger Spawn series from Jimmy Palmiotti and Patrick Reynolds that's actually set in Old West, right? Because Jimmy is like the perfect guy to write that. He's a legendarily known for his Jonah Hex run, and rightfully so. So anyway, a lot of Spawn content coming this year. So don't sleep on it. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're enjoying this walk down memory lane. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. So appreciate you joining us as always, and we will talk to you next time.